All right, Shalawam. First and foremost, I'd like to start out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI, Rakah, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, the elders of Great Millstone, the men that told me this truth. Peace and salutation, brakathum to all you sincere Akim out there laboring in this truth throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, quick update of what's going on out there in Minnesota. You know, now you got ICE agents arresting GAD. All right, GAD being the so-called Native Americans, okay? All right. You know, we've been telling you we're, coming into the time of Jacob's trouble. In fact, we're already in the time of Jacob's trouble. Things are just going to only increase. It's 2026. All right. A lot of things are happening as far as, prophecy. Okay. They was coming after, the Latin tribes, and now they're coming after Gad. Soon they're going to come after Jake, which is so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians. We've been telling you through the spirit. We've been blowing that trumpet, giving you that warning, right? So it's no excuse, All right. So we're definitely in these times, man. And the nerve of these devils, man. Okay, because guess what? This land was given onto the Gadites, all right, the so-called North American Indians, by the way of our forefathers, man, by the way of the Most High, really, the Most High put in the spirit of Gad, when you read 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, to go into a land that no man dwells before. Matter of fact, let me get that, because scriptures do say, remove not thy ancient landmark, man. Here it is, they're taking Gad from, and this is what Esau does, man. He takes take the land that was given to the so-called North American Indians, right? Okay, the Seminole Indians, which are the tribe of Reuben, and also the tribe of Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. They got this land removed from them, from Esau, the Edomites, which are the so-called white people today, right? And now they're living in reservations, man. Now they're telling you that you don't belong here. You see what I'm saying? See how this devil operates? Now let's go real quick. 2nd Ezra chapter 13. And I'm going to start at verse 39. Right? It says, and whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, right? So if you haven't known, you see the 10 tribes is the tribes of Israel, okay? The 10 tribes, which are the northern kingdom, okay, which consists of you so-called Latinos, right? You so-called Native Americans, okay? You are of the 10 tribes, man. Okay? It says, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, which is the land of Israel, okay, in particular Samaria, in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive. So we were in captivity, you know what I'm saying, under the Assyrians, all right, you so-called Latinos and Native Americans, man, all right, the kingdom of Israel, you was in captivity, all right, way before the kingdom of Judah, which the kingdom of Judah is you so-called Negroes, okay? All right, you so-called blacks, West Indians, and Haitians, all right? You collectively are the kingdom of Judah. You see what I'm saying? So the kingdom of Israel went into captivity before the kingdom of Judah. You see? And it says, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And that's talking about here on the Western Hemisphere. All right. When you go into, the map, all right, this region, this land over here, North America, South and Central America, nobody ever dwelt here before. You see what I'm saying? Right? So this land was basically deserted. It was only, I believe, King Solomon. When you go into the history, I believe, First Kings, the 10th chapter, it goes into how King Solomon and his navy, right, with the navy of Hiram, right, they would come over on this side and get all the exotic, like animals that were over here, the gold, the silver, the precious stones, because uh, King Solomon at the time, he needed that to build his house. It took King Solomon, I believe, 7 years to build the Most High's house, and it took like 14 years for him to build his own house. So they needed a lot of that, different material that was out there over here in the land of Ophir. The different gold and things like that. So a lot of the things that they were taking, it took them about, I think, like a year and a half. Basically, yeah. It took them a year and a half to get there, and a year and a half to come back, to go back to Jerusalem. So that all collectively, it took 3 years. All right, and that's why it says that they might, verse 42. It says that they might there keep their statues, which they never kept in their own land. Right, so that was that was the whole concept for them to leave, Samaria, right, and go to America, go to this side of the world, basically, all right, because what happened was, even back then, you had King Shalmaneser. He was putting heathens in the land of Samaria. If you go into the history, that's why when you read about in John the 4th chapter about the Samaritan woman at the well, that was a heathen. All right, and even YAHAWASHI, basically cut her. He said, you don't know what you believe. Basically, you don't know who you worship. For salvation is of the Jews. You see what I'm saying? So when you go into that whole history, you see why things happened the way it unfolded, because they left that side of the world to come over here to dwell and keep the law, statutes, commandments. That was the intention at first. But, they started going off. If you go into the history, even among, the so-called Mexicans, the Aztecs, they had their empire, things like that. And they were going off, worshiping the sun and things like that, So we go into the whole history, our people, the reason why we fell as a nation, because of the curses, but also our people worshiping these different deities, right? But let me go into it, right? It says, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. That's why I said that it took, Solomon about a year and a half, or say 3 years, right? Because it took him a year and a half to get over on this side of the world and then get back. So that's 3 years. All right. So it took the Gadites, the Gadites and the 10 tribes really, to get on this side of the world. And it said the same region is called Arsareth. All right. So this region, this hemisphere over here was named Arsareth. Okay. It says, then dwelt they there until the latter time. And now when they shall begin to come. You see? So this is how we know that the Gadites, or the so-called North American tribe, or North American Indians, the Seminole Indians, and the those are Israelites, man. All right, those are Israelites. Those were Israelites that made their way from, you know, the east, all right, and made themselves to come over here on the western hemisphere, all right, from Samaria to over here, all right, after uh, the Assyrian captivity. So those are the Israelites, okay. But Scripture says that a troop shall um, it says the troop shall overcome. Matter of fact, let me see if I can grab it. I know it's in Genesis 49. Okay, 49 and verse 19, right? It says, Gad, a troop shall overcome. Right. So Gad, the word, the meaning for Gad is troop, right? So it says it's like a omen nomen, right? It says a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. So, you know, when you go into the history of how Gad was taken down, you know, they were forced, or basically they had made uh, treaties with Esau, and then Esau broke each and every last one of those treaties, and eventually they were taken down. All right, and then you know, with the Gatling gun, going to the history, you know, Esau's blessing. That's how they were able to take down Gad, and then they put them in boarding school and reformed them into their ways and their ideology, and you know, they started worshiping their gods and Christianity and all that madness, right? And this is what they did. You know, they destroyed the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Issachar, just like that. But it says in the end, you know, but he shall overcome at the last, right? So eventually Gad is going to overcome, you see. But what we're seeing right now, you know, with this whole ICE takeover and they snatching up Gad or whatnot, man, this is all prophecy, man. This is all prophecy according to Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, you know, the time of Jacob's trouble. Second Ezra, the 15th and 16th chapter. You know, these are the times we're in, man. You know, they're going to be snatching Jacob, putting them in concentration camps, okay? You know, and this is just the beginning, man. But like the scripture says, never trust thy enemy, man. Matter of fact, let's get that. And I'm going to end it there, you know, because our people have a thing with trusting the so-called white man. If you haven't learned from, you know, your forefathers on how he treated, you know, how he treated Gad when he came over there, you know, that means that you still haven't learned your lesson. You still haven't understand that this man is the devil. All right, he has not changed. This is Sirach chapter 12 verse 10. It says, never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rust, so is his wickedness, man. So iron is known to rust. It's gonna eventually rust in due time. So, and likewise, the so-called white man, eventually he's going to show his wickedness, man. So he can't be trusted, you know. It says, though he humble himself, right, and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, right? Because he's going to come as, like the scripture says, Satan is going to make himself as as an angel of light. He's going to disguise himself as an angel of light. But yet you understand that his track record speak for itself. You know, when has the so-called white man done you any good? All right. So you got to be aware of him. You got to watch him, even though he come humbling, you know, or coming as like a lamb, but you know, he's really a serpent, man. Okay, he's really coming in that um uh that serpent type, deceiving way. All right, so he's gonna use his laws and all that shit to try to justify the things that he does, man. Okay, unjust decrees and whatnot. This is what the devil does, man. So it says, and thou shalt, it says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away, man. So no matter how much you can wipe away that, you know, you could wipe away all the the dust and all that. You still eventually you're gonna see that rust. You know, you're gonna eventually see that rust, and you're gonna see that his wickedness is not going away. Okay, no matter how long it's been, how many years has passed by, this is the same devil, man. The same wicked, serpent that was in the garden. That same spirit. Scripture says, his spirit, the soul that's within him is not upright. His soul, the soul that's within him, his spirit is a wicked, evil spirit. And guess what? The Lord created him that way. All right, so we got to take heed of him. You got to understand that he's the devil, man. All that you talking about, you got rights and all that shit. Oh, I read you my rights, and listen, man. All that rights, you don't have no rights, man. As you can see, here it is. They're snatching Gad up, man. All right, which this is supposed to be their land, Okay, but yet they're snatching Gad that's native to this very land, man. You see how the devil operates, man. Okay, so just understand we're in some crucial times. Scripture says, um, to be circumspect. Okay, be circumspect because basically we're in the times of where this man he's about to lose it, man. Scripture says he's gonna be as a madman, sparing none, especially with this devil Trump in the White House. Okay, hey, ain't no telling, man. So we gotta always be on our watch and always be looking out, man, because we're definitely in these times, man, and things are about to be, it's about to turn up 2026. So with that, I'm gonna end it there. All praises due to Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahushua. Till the next time, I say Shalawam.